join. All right. If folks, as you join on, if you'd like to just use the chat button and put down your name and your organization, greatly appreciate it. Okay, we'll give it one more minute before we get started. We just sent out another email update to the folks who confirmed. So
I love it. It's so nice to meet you, Lily Jackson from the ACLU in New Hampshire. We have a Lily Jackson on the Fair Count team too. She spells her name Lilli though. And
oh, no way. That's so funny.
Small world. Yeah.
all right, just we'll wait 1 minute and then we'll get started. As the training I mentioned, this is it's more of a workshop, especially considering all the problems that we're dealing with today in the world. We expect that there's a number of different pain points that we can hopefully help. We may not be able to solve, but I think the goal is that we can help alleviate or at least direct people to a place where it has resources where we can help to alleviate those pain points. So we have a quick presentation, but we do expect a lot of Q&A and a lot of back and forth. So please do not be shy. And as always, we'll be available for folks to ask questions of after the presentation. Okay, we'll get started. It's 1:03. I'll just do introductions real quick. My name is Tim Lim. I am a consultant with the Fair Representation and Redistricting community. I run my own firm, Consulting Services. I am primarily helping with digital support for state tables, local groups, and national stakeholders. And I had a similar role with the Census Counts Coalition back in 2020. And so a lot of the same support that I was able to play in that. Am working now with nonprofit groups. My background is very heavy up on digital. I was a partner at Public Interactive. Before this, ran the paid media side there. Also worked at change.org. On the partnership side, and also worked for the Howard Dean presidential campaign in New Hampshire. So we've been doing digital organizing for a while now, and excited to talk to you all and talk about what challenges groups are facing during Delta and how we can help alleviate. I want to throw it really quickly to Rebecca DeHart, my co-host. And if Rebecca, you want to do a quick intro?
Sure, I'd love to. So nice to be on here today. I love that we have a little bit of a smaller group. I hope that we can do some Q&A at the end. I'm Rebecca DeHart. I'm the CEO of Fair Count. Fair Count is anchored in Georgia. We do a lot of work in the Deep South, but have done some across the country. My background is about 20 years in advocacy and electoral politics. I am a recovering partisan wonk. And so I like to take a lot of the things that I learned in the digital realm for fast acting electoral campaigns and try and apply them into movement building and deep dive organizing on the C3. So I'm really excited to share some of the things that we've learned this year and in the past year with census as well, and how we're going to be using things for redistricting, and also to hear from you at the end of this. And I did mention, if you click on side-by-side speaker view, it may help minimize some of those windows on the side to make your slideshow a little bit bigger.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. We'll get going here. So we are sharing a presentation. If you can't see the screen share, please let me know, but we'll be going through this fairly quickly. And at any time, please feel free to add questions into the chat. We will, take them probably one by one, depending on the subject matter. Like as Rebecca said, it's a smaller group, so we're happy to have more of a conversation here. So please feel free to use the chat function at any time of this presentation. Okay, where are we today? As everyone knows with the redistricting, every state has a fairly unique process for the redistricting, and some states have already submitted their maps, some states have just started. So we acknowledge that that every state's probably at a different point in terms of the process. In terms of big national news and what's gone on in the past year, I think most folks saw that the first round of census data release happened in August, and there were a lot of great data points from there. The overall point being that America is more diverse, and that the numbers are really starting to bear that out. There is going to be another round of data release in the middle of September, where you'll have more user-friendly dashboards available from the Census Bureau. And as we mentioned, we know that the process is starting, or in some cases are in midway through, in some cases are done. So it's going to be for the folks on this call. I'm sure that the place where you're at is probably not the same place where everyone else is at, and we completely acknowledge that as we go through this presentation. This is less about trying to have a one-size-fits-all kind of approach to fix things, and really more about talking about broader themes and pain points that we're seeing. And one of the pain points that we're seeing is the rise of Delta. I think this is not a revelation for anybody, that we're not saying anything controversial here. We are seeing that Delta has spread quite significantly in America. And in particular, it's impacting the organizing that a lot of groups have been able to do just a couple months ago. And so, we went through 2020 where we were all virtual. There was a brief respite, and I think folks during the summer were able to go back to on the ground organizing and being able to fully have a presence in the field. And now a lot of the feedback that we're hearing is that there's conversations, or there's talk about how we can shift some of those offline to online activities. Maybe it's more hybrid approach, but really figuring out how we can utilize digital organizing to help keep people safe, to help keep our volunteers safe, to help keep our constituents safe. Even if you're vaccinated, if you're in a household with kids, Rebecca and I were just talking about, it's something that's really pressing and on people's minds. And so this is a workshop to help talk about what we're seeing is successful, what we're seeing is it works, and some of the best practices, but really also to answer the questions that you all might have. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what resources are available to groups now, and as well as talking about the digital engagement process. So first, we have been doing a number of workshops and trainings. If you go to redistrictinghub.com, this is a newly created website for groups that are interested in getting involved in redistricting and learning more about ways to get involved. So it's a new site. We're going to do a much more public rollout in the next couple of weeks. But for the folks on this training, please visit the site, take a look. It has information on trainings that are upcoming. It has information on on each of the states. It links back to All About Redistricting's website, where you can learn more about the processes and all the intricate rules involved in redistricting in your particular state. And it also has a pretty robust resources hub that's going to keep being added to. We have been scouring the internet and to get the best and most impactful content pieces for groups and making sure that those are available to be shared. What you're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks is much more refined, state-defined, focused content, LTEs, letters to the editor, op-eds, social media content that can be used in your particular state. And these are just some of the trainings that we have done that have been put up on the website. And if you need any help, please let us know. One thing that we're also doing, I just wanted to quickly point out, is we have a Pay Mobilize page. And the reason why we're using Mobilize is because there are a lot of groups involved in redistricting. As we can tell, there are a lot of different stakeholders, and we wanted everyone the ability to be to have access to an event organizing platform that is decentralized. So if you put it up, it'll come up right up on the website. But you can use it as well to organize your events. So if you need access, or if you and Rebecca fully gets a thumbs up, loves Mobilize. So if you need access and would like to try it out, learn more, please reach out to me separately on email, and I'll make sure that we'll get you instructions as well as an account that you can use to just test it out, see what works, see what doesn't. This is open to everyone in the FOR community, and we definitely want the events that you're all doing to be put on there so that other people can have access, or they might even have inspiration from it and be able to take some learnings from those trainings. Talked about the Redistricting Hub, talked about that. So any questions, please let me know afterwards. And please try it out. You're kind of getting a special preview here. So excited that you're all able to see it. And if there's anything, obviously it's a work in progress. So if there's anything that you think, needs editing or would be helpful, feedback is greatly appreciated. Okay, this is the meat of the program. This is where we talk a lot about specifically, what we're seeing groups do in response to COVID, and this is not going to, just be about moving offline to online. It's also covers some of the best practices and what we're seeing groups do in order to effectively organize online. So none of this, I think, is going to be groundbreaking for folks, but we just want to kind of reemphasize some of these things. So tabling activities, right? If you're canvassing or tabling and you wanted to add a layer of safety, or you wanted to add in a hybrid digital component in order to give access to folks who are not spending a lot of time outside. We suggest taking a lot of that and putting that into putting it to online activities such as phone banking, text banking, social media organizing. We have lots of materials on how to do events on Facebook Live, or to do events, tweet storms, to be able to do these organizing events online. And it's not going to replace offline, but I think it does help to supplement, as well as to be able to give folks a safer option, or a safe option in terms of organizing. So, we're at a point, I think, when we talked about this same subject at the beginning of 2020, during the beginning of the pandemic, it was a lot more difficult for groups because people were just starting to, work from home and really starting to quarantine. I think we're, a year and a half later, a lot of folks have either adapted or have figured out how to be able to access some of these platforms online. And so social media is going to be your biggest platform in terms of digital organizing. It's going to be probably the easiest way to access folks and to get them information that they need, and to be able to get them to take actions, whether it's to do a letter to the editor, to do an op-ed, to send, to call your legislator, to call, if you have the option of calling the legislator there, or if it's to, submit testimonies. So there is a lot of opportunities on social media in particular to get active. A second thing is press conferences. This should be fairly I think this is something that you should be supplementing with almost every one of your in-person press conferences. But there's a number of reporters who are working from home or who are not in the area, and so making sure that there is an online streaming option, whether it's through Zoom or Collaborate, making sure that in particular that those the reporters have the opportunity, and stakeholders have the opportunity to be involved from the safety of their house. One thing that we're also seeing is that groups are leveraging Twitter as a press release vehicle also. So Twitter is an effective way to get news out, whether it's a screenshot of the press release or whether it's the actual text itself. But it's an effective way to get news to earn media to press. They're constantly using Twitter as a form of engagement, as a form of getting news out to folks. So please feel free to utilize those. In-person trainings and webinars. This is probably one of the biggest pain points I think we've been hearing from folks as they've been shifting. Thinking that we can do in-person trainings again, and okay, maybe now we have to offer hybrid models. We're seeing a lot of hybrid models nationally in terms of training. So making sure that if there is an in-person component, that there is a virtual component for folks to be able to access. It is really tough. I think everyone here acknowledges that. But just it's possible, and it does give a layer of safety for folks who want to get involved in these trainings. Zoom in particular has been really great for these trainings, as we're showing right now. The breakout room function is also really crucial when you want to break it out into different working groups or different topics. So really, thinking about how to supplement the trainings with a virtual component. If it's not Zoom, if you want to use Facebook Live, if you want to use YouTube Live, and there are a number of different options there where you can stream out the trainings that you're doing and to be able to get people involved. Shifting from multiple high effort events to high impact locations. One of the things that, Rebecca is going to talk a lot about Fair Count's activities, but I think Fair Count's one of the leaders in this particular subject. I mean, what we saw is that yes, there was a lot of folks who were staying home, but there are some places that just they're going to have traffic because it is a necessary good. So grocery stores, community centers, clinics, other locations, there's going to be high traffic there no matter what. So leveraging that traffic and making sure that flyers, as for the food pantries, flyers, palm cards, materials, QR codes. If you told me in 2018 that 3 years later I'd still be talking about that QR codes would be a thing, I would not have believed you. But QR codes have become a real crucial way for groups to be able to leverage high traffic locations and be able to get interest from folks. So please think about these high traffic locations and how best to utilize them and get information to folks. Shift from field targeting to online targeting. This is something that I hope that you've been talking about internally even before the pandemic, but I think the pandemic has definitely sped this up. And so what we're seeing a lot of is the complementary or the supplementary portion of paid digital ads or digital advertising, in addition to your canvassing efforts or your paid media efforts that you're doing. So working on these platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that's kind of they're the big platforms that people are using, and you're going to get the most reach with those platforms. This is an ability for groups to solicit stories, solicit testimonies, solicit volunteers, to get activists, to be able to get information out, to be able to organize for particular events, and for people to take particular actions. There is a lot of various best practices and documents around that. if you're interested in learning more, please email me off thread, and I'll make sure that you get those materials, and that we can make sure that, whatever you're thinking about or running, is going to be impactful and cost effective. But in terms of particularly with collecting stories or collecting testimonies, we do think digital ad campaigns are going to be a crucial part of that as you're trying to organize in your communities. Shifting from in-person outreach to broadcast and print, I think this is this should be something that I think everyone's been having a little bit more experiences of in the last year and a half. Working with the local earned media is going to be crucial in this process, and they want your input, right? They want stories, they want content. So if you are not in contact with the local TV or the local print folks, reach out to them and prioritize those opportunities, because that's where a lot of folks are going to be getting their information as they're either staying home or taking on less and less outside activities. They're going to be consuming media, and as we know, local news, local print is a enormous source of content for folks who are staying at home. In-person monitoring, digital monitoring. This is something that's exploded since particularly 2016, but and I think you're particularly seeing this on the vaccine front. But disinformation, misinformation, or whatever you want to call it, it's a real issue. It's something that affects communities all over the country. It's something that is affecting issues all over the country as well. And so really monitoring for that disinformation, if you're seeing something, if you're seeing particular news that's being shared in your local communities, making sure, one, cataloging it, calling it out, making sure that you're uplifting it to partners in your state, and then figuring out a response to it. In particular, what we're seeing on the national front is misinformation about how the census data or the data that's come out, is replacing white population, or the government's replacing, and that type of information that we're seeing on social media that's been spread by alt-right sources. It's something that we're monitoring, and something that if it escalates and we're starting to see it shared more broadly, that we're going to respond. But that's a type of misinformation, that's a type of content that you want to be on the lookout for, and making sure that you, if you don't have a plan for it, reach out. We can help formulate plans, but really monitoring and making sure that that's something that that you're on the lookout for. This large universes with teletown hall. I think Rebecca's going to cover this as well, but this is a big one for me. I actually, I've become a real big fan of teletown halls in the past year and a half. I think it's an opportunity for folks to be involved, who might not necessarily have broadband access or have really good internet access. So this gives people an opportunity to be able to, get involved into a town hall type of rally, or listen or hear from folks who might have the right information, and be able to get that information out to folks who may not be comfortable streaming a rally or streaming something on their computer. Additional suggestions, and this is, these are things that, best practices we've seen. I mean, virtual volunteer meetings, remote house parties, ramping up your relational organizing program, right? So a lot of the work that you're doing offline, right? If you're organizing with a database or a platform, making sure that you're treating your online organizing as you would treat your offline. Collecting video content. This is going to, I think, be very influential when we're talking about advocacy, but hearing from folks and really being able to get their stories out from the local level and being able to uplift them to the larger media markets is going to be pretty crucial. There are great platforms that can help you do that if you have the budgets for it. Soapbox is one of them. and that's been utilized by a number of groups, but there are others as well. But you can also just ask people to submit it, email it to you, email it to a certain email address, or submit it on social media, upload it, and then you can upload that to a different file. So there are a number of opportunities to collect video content, but video content is probably going to be the most impactful and influential digital content that you can collect from your volunteers. Encourage your organizers and the folks, your super volunteers as well, to grow their own social media followings. Get people to like or follow them. This is a great way for them to build their organizing community and to be able to reach people, without having to talk to them one by one. By building the social media followings, they're able to then get their messages out and get their news out fairly quickly. Digital speakers series, just like this, inviting folks to either do a training or to do some sort of webinar, or even if it's a teletown hall, this is an opportunity for folks to learn. I can tell you from a fair representation redistricting standpoint, we want to make sure that groups have speakers and trainers and resources. So please let us know if there's something that we can help you out with. But it is something that if you are interested in a training or having some sort of digital online training for your group or for your state tables, we would be happy to follow up and figure out how we can do that. And we talked a lot about the local media pushes. We talked about using Facebook Live. These are ways to be able to take what we consider to be traditional offline activities and translate them to an online audience. Okay, I just breezed through a number of these different points here, and before I throw it to Rebecca, I wanted to see if anyone had any feedback or questions. If not, I can hand it over to Rebecca. But okay, I don't see anything on chat, so Rebecca, please.
Hi, everybody. All right, it is 1:30 Eastern Standard Time on a Thursday. It's been a long week. Thanks for sticking with us up until this point. I'm hoping that we can have a little bit of interaction for this last piece. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly too, because I want us to have a discussion. I don't know about y'all, but Tim and I were talking before this. COVID's terrible. We both have kids in school. We're terrified. Recovery is going to be so important over these next 10 years. I'm just preaching to the choir right now, by the way. So thanks for indulging me. Everything that's happened in Texas is terrible. One of the best ways that we have to make progress and to turn back some of these tides that have just been all consuming over the past years and over the past 2 days is redistricting. And the only way that we're going to have a good redistricting is to organize the heck out of it. And so I'm so excited to be presenting with Tim today, both to share what we've learned, because I love being able to share that and have dialogue, and also to hear from y'all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about best practices for online events, and also for taking care of our teams. And I'll get into that in a little bit in a second. All right, Tim. So tips and tricks for better online events. This is just a list of some of them. Tim has shared a whole bunch of different things that you can do online. At Fair Count, we do all sorts of things. We like to say that we throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. And so we learned a lot, and we've learned, sometimes we've learned by failing, which is great. We learn what doesn't work. So let me share a couple of these tips and tricks. Text banks. We love having them. It's really not as fun if you send a list via, Hustle or Spoke or whatever for people to go on and for them just to send the text. Make some community about it. That's what everybody's missing in these volunteer times. We used to get together and sit in a room and do that and crack jokes and share stories and talk about how we're going to be movement building. So it's really kind of up to us to create those spaces anyhow. One great way to do that, curate a playlist. Best text bank I've ever done was to a Whitney Houston playlist. The best mapping session I've ever done, because we do online mapping for redistricting for on Zoom, Stevie Wonder. Everybody knows the greats. It gets you full. It makes you feel like you're back in person again. Hosting a Facebook Live. This is one that I see over and over. Organizations make this mistake, and we did too. And then we corrected it, and it made a huge difference in our online engagement. Have a slide that goes up that says, welcome to whatever event we're going to have. We'll be starting soon. If you promoted your event correctly, right? It was all over Twitter. Tune into Facebook at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It was all over Facebook. Tune into, Facebook at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have this amazing event. People see it. They tune in at 3 o'clock and your page looks the same as it ever did. The last content they saw was 2 hours ago. People don't wait for that content to come live. So you need to make sure that you're on there before the 3 o'clock, either with a countdown slide and then a slide that says, we're going to be starting right away. You won't want to miss this. That small change totally changed the way that we got people to stay in for our online events. Also check out StreamYard. StreamYard is really inexpensive. I think it's $40 a month. So it's cheaper than Zoom. It's a real inexpensive platform for webinars and other things. We like it so much better for Facebook Live because it has different sort of bells and whistles on it. So in StreamYard, if you're doing a Facebook Live, it will actually go and pull out people's comments and kind of like splash them over the page and everything. Anything again that makes it seem more of an engagement, like you're not just talking at people through their electronic devices, but instead like it's something that people have come together sort of organically. So check it out. We really like it. And the last thing is, have some fun. Bring people in, get creative. We've all been doing this for like more than, I don't know, are we at 600 days yet? I'm not entirely sure. Feels like 6,000. This gets boring. Tim and I get boring. We're constantly just sitting and listening and to other people talk. So think about cool ways that you can make things, a little bit more exciting. Tell some jokes. Bring those online DJs. We love a good DJ. When we do micro-targeted events in rural Georgia, we go and we find the local radio person or the local DJ who does like the high school proms and the weddings and stuff, and we hire him. And we'll have him or her do events at our online events, TikToks, all that kind of stuff. They can help you break through, and we all need it right now. Next one. Tools for remote teams. All right. So in the bottom, you have a little reaction button and you can raise your hand, or you can actually that one, because then you have to put it down. You can do a little thumbs up. Is anybody on here a supervisor for the rest of their team or for other members of your team? Can you give me a little thumbs up? Okay, I see some thumbs. Thank you. Thank you. Is anybody on here have a direct line to your supervisor? So if you heard of an idea you liked, you could take it to that person. I see some thumbs. Okay, cool. Well, then I think that this will be useful, and hopefully this will be something that we can all learn from y'all too. Next slide. It is so hard to continue to work and to try and preserve, change, forward, progress, democracy when we're not with our people, right? We all know, we all work in this space. This isn't just a job. This is our lives. We all really care about it. And when bad things happen, we all feel it a little more too. And one of the ways pre-COVID times is because we built these magnificent teams where people had each other's backs, where you'd get in the morning and you'd be like, yeah, whatever happened last night, that what was crazy. But also, did you see the last episode of Ted Lasso? Because it made everything better, right? Those are the kind of conversations that we would have in the office. You'd swing by, hey, I heard such and such happened. Your friend got married. Tell me about the wedding, whatever it was. And it's gone. And as supervisors, if we want our teams to stay engaged and have 100% capacity for the things that are coming at us, we need to make sure that we're feeding our teams in those ways too. We also need to make sure that we have the tools that they can have to communicate that make it as close to the same as I'm just going to go down to that person's office and stick my head in and ask a quick question and be right back than before. It's real easy to get stuck into, I have a question for this person. I don't have a meeting with this person until Thursday. I'm going to hold it till then. That slows our progress down. Tons of online tools help us speed that up and keep it going. Chat, instant messaging. Oh, sorry, if you don't mind going back real quick. I'll go over them real quickly. Oops, the other way. So the first item was the chat instant messaging slide for the, oop. You can also
We're
run
having technical
slideshow
difficulties.
backwards, and that will keep everyone's attention.
Yeah. We have what we call technical difficulties, and let
I love
me,
it.
because why, I mean, like, we gotta create a little excitement, you know what I mean? Like, we just can't do something,
It is
you
the
know.
digital relational organizing training. So let me talk
Yeah.
while it gets back on there. Let me talk about chat and instant messaging. So it's that action of being able just to like talk to your colleagues really quickly. A lot of teams I know are using like iChat, or they'll have a Slack channel for you know, for their teams, or for like, you know, maybe it's like a separate program team, maybe it's for your whole staff. Oh, thank you. That's perfect. We don't use either of those. We actually tried using GChat in the beginning because we figured everybody was up and you could just have little GChat boxes. It got too confusing. There was too much going on. We use Signal. We love Signal. We create little Signal strings, super fun. And we discuss work, brainstorm ideas, and we stay connected. We have Signal threads. We have one called Word Tacos, where we have our book rec club. We have, you know, we also have comms and social media, and we have all the different ones. And it's a way to keep that constant conversation. And it's kind of like you learn the rules of the roads too. If you're using a Signal channel, like, that's not the place where you're going to write a long drawn out email to everybody. That's going to be the time where you stick your head in their door and be like, hey, do you have blah, blah, blah? That's what you use that for. So you find these different tools that fit the type of communication that we all enjoyed in the before times. Video conferencing. Wow, we do it so much, don't we? I know everybody on here does. I'm actually happy to see that some people have their videos turned off. We're all on video all of the time. But on the flip side, it's really important to have your video on sometimes. It's turned into, you remember when we used to sit in boardrooms and people would be like on their phones while people were talking? There's a way that you kind of know somebody is listening and engaged. And so make sure you at least find a couple of those times where all your team knows they need to be present in that moment. It's real easy to multitask all the time at home. So definitely try and bring everyone in and try different ones. You know, try Google Hangouts, try Zoom, try Skype. I was just on a Microsoft Teams. I don't know if anyone is using that. I have no idea how to use it. I was on it with a big donor yesterday. I pressed a button and it looked like all of their heads were floating on an outdoor amphitheater. Quickly unpressed that button because I was scared everybody else would see that and that I had screwed up everything with a big donor. I think it was fine. But, you know, we all heard the story about the woman who made herself a potato. That's fun. So maybe there's some good tools that are out there that help you and your team stay together. Project management. We have used some of this, but if you're not already using project management software, definitely check it out. We used Asana for our massive bus tours. And then for our when we actually took our bus tour and made it a digital virtual online bus tour, really helpful when you have a million moving parts, a lot of people working on it, and you need to keep the same documents in the same places. Trello, Basecamp, Asana, Airtable, Monday, etc. All great examples. And it would be wonderful if any of you are using these different tools as we move together through charge and redistricting, you know, share on the different listservs and stuff, what's working well for you. What works well for some might work really well for others. Next slide, please. Drive storage. That's another thing, you know, it's just not as easy to ask people, hey, email this, do this, when everything is coming in email. Like all of our boxes are more clogged now. You can't text someone to do something on email because it won't be there when they get to their computer. There's all sorts of issues. So make sure that you have some sort of shared storage. You know, we use Google Drive, and there's a whole bunch of levels you can go in Google Drive too that have more cybersecurity to them, have more storage capabilities, have more online helpful support. We've always found that they've been pretty good to us, and we feel good about the Google Drive. Dropbox is another really easy solution. We keep that for like real evergreen stuff. But it's just really helpful so that all of your team can really do the best they can without constantly wondering where things are. And productivity and time trackers. I'll be honest, I've never used one of these. Maybe I should. A lot of the younger people who are working with us, they do. It's like a normal part of their job, especially if you know your own workspace and your own headspace when you're working. If you like to work on something and then you like to change course so that you remain fresh, these productivity and time trackers, I've been told, are just absolutely incredible. For me and for anybody else out there who's supervising people, I use Google Calendar and I put 2-hour blocks of everyone calls me Red because those are my initials, Red's work surge time, where I get 2 hours a couple of times a week where no one interrupts me or schedules a meeting or makes a call, because I'm really able to focus on some things. Next slide. Tools for remote teams. This is the other thing too, building camaraderie online. A lot of us really enjoy working from home, but I don't know if I've met one person who's working in the movement who doesn't start that sentence off by first saying, I really miss seeing everyone, but, and then they go on to say, I want it to be hybrid, or I like working from home, or I wish I could come back. But that's always really seems to be at the core. So what can we do as team members to make sure that that camaraderie stays built up, because it strengthens us as activists and organizers as well? One thing that we suggest is have more fun with your online check-ins. I'm a social worker, and so every job I've ever had, I've brought this to it, but I have every end of week staff meetings start with something we call new and good, where someone has to share something new and good in their lives that does not have to do with work. It can be really tiny. Somebody might say, I had a great sandwich. Somebody else might say something like a huge vacation they're going on, but it gives us that space to get to know each other. And then it gives us those things that before we go into work, we can check in with people, especially I'm sure at this point, everyone has hired someone online without meeting them in real person. We have to make sure that we're using this so that people don't feel isolated, and it gives the teams chances to get to know one another. Build in self-care time. So important. I just sent an email out to all my donors. I was surprised by how many auto responses I got back that said, we're closed down this week. It's been a really hard year and the whole team needed some time off. I was so thankful to see that. At Fair Count, for all of July and September, we had something called Self-Care Summer. Every Tuesday, we didn't start work till 10:30. We took that time, encouraged people to go to the gym, read a book, do something that didn't involve screens. And then when we came together for a staff meeting, we shared, if we were comfortable, what we did to take care of ourselves. We liked it so much that we've renamed it Sleepy Septembers. And we're going forth with it again this month, and it'll probably be Napping November, whatever. But it's that space. There's something mental about carving out that self-care time that's supposed to belong to other time, like the working week, that makes people actually reflect on it. And that's part of self-care, is actually realizing that you're practicing it. That's part of what helps with it. Create those virtual opportunities. There's super fun online games like You Don't Know Jack and all of this kind of stuff. Make sure, your organizing team maybe used to go bowling once a month for family night out. Make sure that they're having like those same types of things that are online. We do a thing called no work lunches, where we invite people to have a lunch hour, and the only rule is you can't talk about work. And that's led to some really fun discussions. And I'll tell you that I have never attended one, because I think it's really important to create boss-free time too. Make sure your team has some time to really get to know each other in the ways that they don't ever get to know bosses. And that's okay. It's like really important for the health of the organization. Cocktail hours, other things too. One other thing, when we do big trainings, how like we used to order in lunch for everybody and we'd all sit down and break bread together. We do it virtually. We give everyone you can spend up to $35 on Uber Eats or Postmates. And at 11 o'clock, we'll break at a training. We'll be like, okay, everybody go order your food, so that it gets there at 12. And then we all sit and eat lunch together on the Zoom during like an all-day training. And if there's nothing else to talk about, we at least talk about where everybody ordered food, and it usually devolves from there. So that's pretty fun. Create non-work threads, tech signals. Like I said before, we have book club, podcast recs, best streaming shows. Use these online tools any way you can to keep building, just to keep building. And then the last tip I have is using Photo Circle to share photos. a lot of organizing teams use Photo Circle. A lot of organizers, that's part of their end of day when they upload all of their data into Vote Builder, is to also upload all their photos to Photo Circle. But it's also a way, if you share it into your programmatic teams, your finance teams, your other teams that normally wouldn't see what's going on in the field, to get a sense that we're still, a big present and that we're still around. And maybe they're just selfies with us stuffing PPE now instead of going and knocking on doors, but it still builds that sort of team camaraderie. Next one. That is it. I hope some of these tips and tricks were helpful. I'm really excited to learn more from y'all and also to answer any questions if we have. Tim and I are definitely here. I'll keep an eye on the chat box. There's also, is there a Q&A function? I don't see it actually. And we would love for y'all, share a story, something that worked really well, share a story that didn't. If you want to name your favorite tool, that's great too, but we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and please feel free to use the chat function, or if you want to unmute and ask a question too. This is a solid enough crowd that we can do that. So
could we
please
take the slide down actually, Tim, so we can see everybody's boxes in case they did?
We can.
Cool. Now it's a little more Brady Bunch. I like it.
Great. Anyone have anything, or even a story to share that's been working, pain point, or even just a topic of discussion? It can be even your favorite platform, or something that is something that we may not have mentioned. I know that a lot of folks in the past year and a half have been trying out a different number of different platforms. Rebecca and I have both mentioned a number of them, but if there's something that we haven't mentioned that you think is really cool, we'd love to hear from you.
Tim, one thing I thought, maybe just to get the conversation going too, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I am a tech phobe. Is that the right word? I'm totally terrified of tech and of digital tools, and I've had to come around to them in my whole career. I mean, I come from a family where, they still were using rotary phones when everybody else was getting their first cell phones. I remember getting my first CD player way late in life. So it's just never been part of my culture. And I feel like that's something that happens a lot with organizations too, just sort of the fear of using tech because it could be hard. Do you have any tips and tricks on how people get through that?
Yeah, I am. I'm a digital strategist, quote unquote, but I grew up old school. When I started in politics organizing, we were using paper. I mean, we had the voter file printed out, and and we were using the atlas maps, and we were we were using the highlighter to be okay, you're getting this street, you're getting that street. So and even today, as Rebecca mentioned, there are folks who are younger who are using all sorts of different tools, and I'm like, man, I gotta get I should definitely use some of those. But it's, I think the first thing you want to do is try to not necessarily normalize it, but at least equate it to what people are used to doing. So a lot of what we did in this presentation would be well, if you were doing just like how you're doing X, Y is very similar to it. I think that helps folks to kind of get a frame of reference as to what it is. So if you're saying, remember how you would knock on a door. When you're text banking, you're texting, or if you're doing it remotely, you're just calling. It's the same type of thing. Or if you were at a rally and you were watching that in person, that's what streaming. When you're streaming an event, you're able to do the same thing. I think also groups underestimate the how much digital exposure that folks have had in the past year and a half. I think this is a storyline that I think we're hearing across the board is folks who in the past year and a half normally wouldn't have been so online focused or haven't spent so much time on social media platforms are definitely spending time now on social media platforms. And so, I'd say take advantage of that, right? I mean, there's not, I'm not saying it's a silver lining, but I think, there's been a massive shift all across America as to how we've been engaging folks, right? Whether it's your family members, whether it's your team members, whether it's work. So there has been a massive shift, and there's been a lot of changes that have been made, and so don't let a lot of folks have been trained, or a lot of folks have been figuring out how to do this. So I think they're more receptive than they would have been in 2019, and so I would say take advantage of some of those opportunities.
I found that a lot of tools have their own companies too, like Mobilize, Sprout, Hustle, Spoke, whatever it is. And there's just a bunch of folks who get paid every day to answer our questions, and we utilize them for sure.
Yes.
They make them so accessible now as well.
Yes. I mean, a lot of these platforms, they're cause-based platforms. They have the same objectives as a lot of the folks on this call, and so yeah, feel free to reach out and ask questions. Don't be shy, because they're getting hammered with these questions from everywhere else, and they have especially from this past year and a half, they have a track record of having to respond to them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're seeing some of the comments here. Rebecca, they love your playlist idea. And I admit, I think in particular, I've seen that as well. The playlist phenomenon, I think, has gotten really big. Whether it's Pandora, Spotify, I mean, there are folks who even online radio, they're sharing it. But the DJ idea, I loved. I think that's something that whether or not you have the resources, just reaching out to folks and seeing if they want to get involved in doing some type of event there, I think it's really a smart and crucial way of getting that message out.
I'd love to just share this real quickly with the DJ, just to share the realm of the purpose of which we've used those things. Remember when the COVID first hit and everyone was stuck inside their house, and that's when like DJ Nice came up, and all of a sudden you had this like sort of subculture following of all these people would come online at the same time and dance in their houses and stuff. So we tried to recreate that with the census, and we would call undercounted communities and counties. We'd advertise it. We'd text them out the first, and we do auto calls all week. Hey, we're at a Randolph County dance party happening Friday night only for Randolph County. And then we would call the home phones and just say, put your phone on speakerphone. This is a DJ just for Randolph County. And we worked with the DJ then to give information about the census in between different songs. And that's all it was, just a dance party for that county. It was really a lot of fun.
We should have done a dance party for this presentation. Totally. that was a massive fail on my part. I was Thursday, afternoon, going into a holiday weekend. What was I thinking? And also a playlist too. I don't know what I was, what I was thinking. This was a tough week for a lot of folks. That's what I was thinking. We had a lot to deal with. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I hope folks are getting something out of it. Just hearing from Rebecca and what FairCount's been doing. I routinely tell people FairCount is just one of the most innovative and amazing groups. And as they mentioned, they throw a lot of things, on the wall to see what works. And really, I think that's helping to pave, for a lot of other groups, a way to see what's working, what's not. And I just think, yeah, really being able to adjust during these tough times. I think there's no bad idea really. And so it's great to see. Okay. Well, listen, if anyone has any questions or any follow-up, I'm putting my email I'm going to put my email address for folks here, and Rebecca's putting hers, and yeah, please feel free to reach out. This is we're a community, and we're going to be doing this together. And there's no reason to feel like you're doing this alone. There's hundreds, thousands of groups working on redistricting all across the country, and there's content and there's practices and there's events being done all over. And so really, like, let's learn from each other, and let's learn together, and let's bring the most impact we can to this process. So thank you all for attending. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for all your time and amazing feedback. And yes, Rachel, we'll be sharing the slides as well as this recording afterwards. So with that note, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely holiday weekend, get some rest, and we'll hopefully see you at our next trainings.
Love it. Thanks, y'all.
Great. Thanks.